All right, looks like I think we got everybody successfully logged in. Hopefully, you're able to see and hear me okay. Let me introduce myself. My name is Colleen DeLang. I am the Director of Education here at My Real Source. A little bit about my background and why I love teaching this class is as an agent, this is truly one of my favorite products. I use it every time I go on a listing appointment. But I'm going to show you some time saving tips and techniques. I'm going to show you some easy buttons that make it a little bit easier to use. My average CMA using Cloud CMA literally takes me about 7 to 9 minutes. I'm going to show you how to set up your template. I'm going to show you how to customize it, and I'm going to show you how to add some things that are going to make it unique to you. Because, of course, every agent using Cloud has the Cloud program, right? How do you make your CMA even better than the agent you may be competing with? Or how do you make it even better than another agent in your office? And it's all about doing the homework, right? So today we're going to cover CMAs from beginning to end. I wish that we were doing this in a little more live way. We're actually redoing our entire classroom with some state-of-the-art cameras that are going to allow us to do in person and via webinar. So stay tuned. That's going to be available in March coming back. It's going to be nice to see real life people, but since we're doing this via live streaming, if you have any questions today, I still want to make sure I'm answering them. So please, if you have any questions, feel free to go into your GoToWebinar panel, open that up, and you will see a questions box. This is where you can type in any questions or any comments that you may have. And as an agent myself of 25 years, I don't want you to hold your questions to the end. Feel free to go ahead and throw them in while they're on that screen. It'll simply pop up on my screen and I can take your question right then and there. All right. So I've got quite a few people logged in, so we will go ahead and get started. I want to show you some of the new features in Cloud too. And the very cool thing about what I'm about to show you is, yes, we're going to go through it step by step, but if you'll allow me, I'm going to kind of teach this class backwards. I'm going to show you the finished product first so you can see the differences in the live new interactive CMA versus the PDF that you may be familiar with that you may have used previously. But the great news is you make the CMA the exact same way. The big difference is how do you want to present it? So, all right, so I'm going to ask one person, if you wouldn't mind, just anybody on this call, if you could jump into the questions box and just let me know that you can see and hear me okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Nothing worse than being a presenter and finding out 5 minutes in no one could hear you or no one could see you. That's always the worst. So if I can have just anybody on the call today, if you could just pop in the questions box, yep, we see and hear you okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Nope, not seeing anybody yet. Hopefully you are able to hear me. Ah, thank you so much. Thanks, Patricia. You saved the day. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So as I mentioned, the big thing with cloud is simply how do you want to present your CMA? This is a real life client that we just closed not that long ago. And so I thought I would use this one because it's going to have a lot of the good examples that we can use. Of course, you can print off your CMA if you're comfortable doing that. I really don't generally like to do that. Sometimes if I have an older client, I may print it off. But I generally will have it on my laptop or on my tablet. I will go through it and then I email them a copy as well. If you're meeting maybe with an older homeowner, it might be great to print it off. You know, some of them still really like to have a paper copy in their hand. But there are some new interactive features that they've built in their live CMA program. And let me tell you why I keep stressing this. I love it because it's stuff that we've needed as agents for a long time. So let's say Patricia, who was kind enough to jump in for me, Patricia's sitting with her seller. The seller says, you know what about Joe Fumagalli? I don't see him in your comparables. Patricia has the ability in the live version to literally pull up Joe Fumagalli's house while she's sitting there. And she can usually, we didn't use it as a comp because it's different than the subject property. But they don't always know that as the seller, right? So Patricia can say, well, actually, I didn't use Joe Fumagalli on the corner because he's actually 3,000 square feet and a two-story home, and you're a one-story one that, but you can pull them up on the fly to address those concerns. Or maybe Patricia did her CMA 2 days ago, and this property just closed yesterday. She's able to pull up those properties, and with one click, she can actually adjust her whole CMA. I kid you not, I've had this personally. Walked into what I thought was just the cutest little dollhouse of a home from the outside. It was very updated on the outside. The shutters were painted, all the flowers were in a perfect row. But I walked into the house, took my shoes off, and the first thing I stepped on was blue shag carpeting. And I'm talking Grover blue, the big shag that we all used to have in the 70s. And this house had clearly not been updated on the inside since the 70s when it was built. So here's me in the bathroom with my CMA trying to rip out the page that I had my suggested price on. Now, with one click, you can make those updates immediately. So we're going to take a look at some of those features. So again, we're going to look at the PDF version that you see on your screen right now, but we're also going to take a look at that live version. I like to teach it backwards so you can make sure that when you're looking at it, you like it, and then I'll show you step by step how to do it. All right, so our first page that you're looking at right here is simply the cover page. By the way, with this cover page, I actually just used the public records photo on this front because I generally will one-step my listings. Some people two-step their listings, and that's fine if you do it that way. You can go make rapport, take photos, and for me, working full time at the MLS, I generally one step my listings. So I want to have all of my homework done. I want to have all the tax information pulled up. I want to have my forms filled out. I want to have all the comparables that I know are going to be just like their home. So for me, one of the things, because I didn't want a big, ugly Google Maps overhead shot, which is what generally will come on your CMA report if you don't customize it, I just went to BSNA or your public records site, and that is a public record photo. I saved that and I used it as my front cover for my CMA. I'm going to show you step by step how to do that. Of course, you want to have your subject property address, which is auto-filled right from the tax information when you start your CMA. I also like to have a little bit of information about me and a little bit of information about my company. So what looks like it took a long time to create actually took me about 30 seconds. I went to our company website. I simply copied and pasted this into my template in Cloud CMA. So every single time I do a CMA, that beautiful layout about my company is right there. You can do a contact me page. You can even put a QR code here that will allow them to simply click on it and have this whole report on their phone. So if you're working with someone who wants to be able to, maybe send it to someone else, they want to you can actually create a QR code for this page that will allow them to have the whole thing right on their phone, and they can send it on maybe to a husband or wife or partner or spouse or whatever. And that will allow them to not only see it, but have your contact information in front of them. This is one of those pieces that I said makes it unique to you. And I'm kind of like the Girl Scout, if you will. I always like to do my homework. I think to really prepare a good CMA, it is about doing your homework. It's about pulling in the tax records. It's about pulling in the market stats, what's going on in their market. And that the market, by the way, even though we're all very low in inventory right now, city to city, it's different. And so having that information to educate the seller, I think is so important. So what you're looking at right here is the real list report. This is the report that I simply pulled up right from Realist with their address that's showing me how many bedrooms it had, how many bathrooms it had, how many half baths did it have, what was the square footage, did it have a basement, did it have a garage, everything from even what it was a finished basement. So I can even see that in here. I also like in the Realist record that down here at the bottom where it says sales history, it'll tell you if they've refied. Now you can see very clearly that they did refi in 2012, but if they had recently refied, I would see that as well. I can see if it went into foreclosure. These are all important things because a lot of times in doing this 25 years, you're sitting with a seller and they don't know how to bring that up, right? They're nervous. They just think, okay, we got to sell. This is where you can start doing your homework and find out all those additional pieces. How big is the lot? How big is the basement? Is it a full basement? Is it a partial basement? All of this is right here. Is it an attached garage? Yes. Does it have a deck off the back and a porch? Yes, absolutely. So all of this information to start building my comps is coming right from the tax information. I save the tax information and I actually put it in my CMA. The reason is when they say, well, Colleen, I think we have a little more square footage. Where'd you get our square footage? I want to be able to show them where I got their square footage. I am also a huge fan of Kubicasa. If you have not used Kubicasa, which is a free member benefit through your MLS, um, I hate to say this. I remember the old days where I had the really long tape measure and you were handing it to a seller, right, to hold one end, and you were trying to measure rooms 25 years ago. It took forever. And we all had the little laser measures, if you remember them, where you could measure the room, but I swear they were always off a couple inches. A lot, you'd sneeze and they were off a foot. So that didn't really, then we all went to smart devices, right? So now we had measuring apps, but the accuracy really wasn't there. Kubicasa, if you have not signed up for that, is a free floor plan and measuring app. It takes on average about 7 minutes to walk through a 2,000 square foot home. You literally start at one end. It uses LiDAR on your phone. So it literally measures the room in seconds for you. And it actually creates an entire floor plan. These are great ways to pull in exact square footage as well. It will give you a total on your square footage. It'll give you room measurements. It does so much. Also, it's so nice when you have a floor plan that you can add to the photos. And it's free. So that's a really cool thing too. So if you haven't signed up, you can sign up under resources. You do want to sign up there so you get it for free. If you go to the App Store and you sign up, you're not going to get all the cool stuff that you should get. So back to where we're doing our homework. I like to bring in everything from Realist and BS&A. If you're not familiar with BS&A, BS&A is your city or municipality assessor's office. Something that we do different here at My Real Source is we actually use the live BS&A server. What that means is I recently had some clients who owed some back taxes. We were getting ready to close, and although it had been mentioned several times, they had not gone in and paid the taxes at the assessor's office yet. So the day before closing, that's of course when they finally go down and take care of it. We needed to be able to show that to the title company so that we could still close and not hold a tax escrow, right? So they went down, they paid it because we're using the live BS&A server. They could see that almost immediately when the assessor hit save. So that's a way to make sure that you're getting that live and up-to-date information. This is also where I pulled the photo from. I'm going to show you exactly how to do this. So don't worry, don't feel overwhelmed. I'm going to show you step by step how to do all of this and where you can find everything. So again, I like to pull the BS&A and Realist record because every once in a while there's a discrepancy. I had a home in Sterling Heights that I saw in the MLS was listed as a 2-story with the previous agent who it hadn't sold with. The tax records all said that it was a 1-story home. So I was kind of a little baffled. I pulled up to the home. I could clearly see it was a 2-story home. But why would the tax record say it was 1-story? So these are those questions that it's kind of like a red flag. Like, remember to ask the seller, why does it say this and this? So I did. I asked him. He said, well, actually, I put that second, it was like kind of like a dormer. It wasn't like a full second story, but it was, like a bedroom and maybe a little hall. And he said, well, yeah, I did that. I used to do that for a living and I just added it onto the home. And then my next question was, well, did you pull a permit? And his answer was, oh, no. So those are great questions to ask, right? And we knew our first step was to probably go to the city and make sure we got a permit. So these are those discrepancies that it just allows you to see. And a lot of times, and I'll look for it mostly on Realist. Let me see if I can find one really quick. If there's a discrepancy, it will generally say MLS says this and the tax information says this. The reason it will show in Realist is because Realist is a combined source. meaning it's pulling some of the information from the tax records or the municipality, but it's also pulling some of the information from the MLS and previous listings. So it's more of a combined source giving you kind of a whole picture, where BS&A is just the assessor's office. It's the one that you would, if you were ever in a legal situation, the judge is going to look at BS&A because that's the municipality, that's what the city knows about the home. So that's like the trusted record. I like to have them both because, like I said, sometimes you'll find things where you go, you know what? This says one thing here and another thing here. Why would it be different? It's just a great reminder to ask those questions. All right, this is something else as the Girl Scout, always being prepared, right? This is something else that I put in every CMA that I do. And I love this. It's literally 2 clicks to create this great graph that tells them just what's going on in their market. So when I was sitting down with her originally to list this home, I showed her the top is residential, by the way, the bottom is condo. But I showed her that at that time in Clinton Township, they were down 42.7% in inventory. That's a lot, right? So if you look at this graph, that took me literally 2 clicks, and I'm going to show you how to do it. There were 89 homes on the market in March of 23. When I was sitting with her in March of 24, there were only 51 homes. So that works out to be about negative almost 43% in our inventory, right? Supply and demand. So what's that doing to our average sales price? Well, not enough homes, lots of buyers. Buyers are paying more. How much more are we looking at? Well, our average sales price, wow, our average sales price went up 50,060 dollars. So $50,060 in 1 year on our average in Clinton Township. So it was 271,505, and it went up to 321,563. So what does that tell us when we're doing our range, right? When we're looking at our range of where we're going to put that homeowner, if we're giving them a price range, we know clearly we're going to end up pricing it on the higher end of the range according to this data, because clearly things are selling for quite a bit more, and that inventory was still now when I ran this the other day, it was funny, it was only down 13%. So that's a fluctuating, you can still see it's kind of fluctuating, and some cities are positive right now. There are more homes going in, for instance, in Macomb Township, a lot of new construction going up again. So this is a changing number, but it's good to have this right in your CMA because it's showing, one, you're educating the seller. Two, you're explaining why you're coming up with those numbers. So I love this. This is something we call fast stats, and I'm going to show you step by step how to create your fast stats. The next thing is, what comparables are you choosing? Obviously, you don't want to compare as I mentioned, a 5,000 square foot colonial to a 1,000 square foot ranch, right? I mean, there are some things, some parameters you want to stay in. We're going to show you those today too. I personally love the way that it displays comparables. There are different ways you can choose to display the comparables. You could do side by side, so they're all on one page. Personally don't like that. I personally like them to really see not only the homes, but the photos. So if they say, well, did Joe Fumagalli have a finished basement? Because I have a finished basement. You want to be able to see that in your report, and you want to be able to cover that. You want to say, yeah, I did the homework. Let's take a look. So with this particular, wow, that's a shocking blue. With this particular, every once in a while, it just sort of catches my eye when they're that bright. With this particular home, you can go in. I can see, yes, this home is pretty updated. Does it have a finished basement? Wow, that's a equally shocking watermelon color. Very interesting colors here. I can see that, yes, it does have a finished basement. I would probably say that's kind of partially finished, but and I can see that in the photos. So here I can go to the next comp, and same thing. So if they said, okay, but was it updated? My home is updated. I can clearly see, yeah, this looks like someone took some great time and did update this home. Does it have a bathroom basement or a bathroom in the basement? Yes, it does. We can see all of that right from here. So I like the way it displays. There are different reports that you can use to display your comps. When you're doing a CMA, if you're brand new, because I noticed we had quite a few new people on the call, when you're doing a CMA, you can choose the different report styles that you want, but a CMA is really just designed to showcase what that seller can expect to sell their home. How long is it going to take on the market? What should they look at? And of course, obviously, the most important thing is a great agent will also do a seller's net out so they know what to expect as far as fees. They know what to expect in their pocket at the time of closing. And I have to say, I sort of pride myself on that. I think that most times I get within $50 of what their check is going to be at the closing table. And I think that's important because that is what sellers really need to know. What am I going to walk away with for my home? So as you can see right here under the sold property analysis, right when I was listing this home, properties were selling for 105% of what they were listed for. Now, is that every property? No, but because of the low inventory and the high demand, you can see the properties were selling for more than they were listed for. And on average, they were only on the market for 13 days before they went pending. You can also choose if you would like to put in a suggested price or a suggested price range. Now, if you decide you don't want to do that, if you decide you just want to show the comps and not put in a suggested price range, you can do that. You actually choose whatever pages you want to appear in your report. So if there's something you don't like here that you're seeing that you're like, oh, I wouldn't put that in, you don't have to. You can actually choose page by page what you want to be displayed in your report. Now, of course, the big one is what is the price per square foot when you're doing a CMA? And I like the way this demonstrates that. It kind of gives them a quick graph, and then down at the bottom, it's going to show them price per square foot closed. You can also add your own listing material in here too. One of the questions that I always would get asked, and it got to be the number one question, right, is Colleen, are you going to put my home on Zillow? Are you going to put my home on Realtor.com? Where are you going to market my home? So instead of always waiting for them to ask that, I just created this little graph here. And you can put in whatever you want. It's totally up to you. I just created this because I thought this is a great way to show, yeah, I'm going to have you on over 400 different sites because that's how many my broker syndicates to. These are the top sites you're probably familiar with. But over on top of that, there are also a bunch of smaller additional sites that you will be listed on. So it was a way for me to handle that objection before they even asked it. And I always think that's good. So it's really about customizing your CMA report. Now, this is, as I mentioned, the PDF version. You could print this out. You could save it to your laptop, or you could save it to your iPad and take that with you. Again, if I have an older client, I generally will print it out. However, if you're looking for something a little more interactive, that's where you might want to check out, excuse me, you might want to check out Cloud's new live interactive CMA. So you make the CMA, as I mentioned, the exact same way. The only difference is how do you want to present it? So let's take a look at that one next. I'm going to switch screens here real quick. So you can kind of see it a little bit. Basically, as I mentioned, you're creating the CMA the exact same way. The difference is, do you want to present it in a PDF version or do you want to present it in a live version? So let's take a look at that same report in that live interactive version. One of the cool things here is, one, it's very updated. It's basically tiles that will walk you through your CMA. You can still see I've got that same great photo. And down here at the bottom, you can click Start Presentation, and it will allow you to walk through. But I just want to highlight some of the big differences. If I go up here to the hamburger stack on the left, one of the things that is a big difference is down here, if you are not going to be sitting with your client, you can present this via Zoom, via Microsoft Teams, via Skype, via Screen. If you don't know what Screen is, it's the makers of Slack. So you can actually utilize that, or Google Hangouts. You can present it in any way to your client listed here so that you can interactively present exactly what you're trying to show, which I thought was very cool because we're not always with our sellers. This kind of came around in the pandemic. They were working on this. But really, why I like this is one, you can put an interactive resume in there. So you can have a movie format in your, so I can click start presentation here. They can see about my company. But one of the other things I can do here is I can actually put an interactive video of me and maybe standing in front of my sign, maybe testimonial video in here. You can actually customize it so it can include video links. It will show the subject property, but what I really want to show you is my favorite part, which is the comps, how the comps are portrayed. And I'm going to show you one I just recently did because it's got even more updated comps here. Let me grab this one. I think this was the one I did a little more customizing in the way of the comps. In the comps here, and I like how this is displayed. For this particular home that I listed and closed over here to the left, this was our subject property. I like how it highlights what the differences are, and hopefully you can see that. I know it's a little bit harder when you're live streaming it. It's a little bit smaller, but this tells you there's a little bit more square footage. There's 2.28% more square footage in this comp that I selected than my subject property. This one had an additional bath. This one had a slightly larger lot size, but it's highlighting what the differences are in these properties. The other thing is it will show right along the top what is the most expensive property, what is the closest property to you. So I can actually see of those 7 comparables. Let me click this one over. There's one more over here. I can actually see in those comparables all of the differences, and they're highlighted for you. I remember the days I used to use the Post-it notes. Like if you remember CMAs a long time ago, I used 7 different CMA programs. And we were constantly putting notes on our, well, this one didn't have an attached garage, so it sold for less. This one had a finished basement, so it sold for more. We were doing the same thing that it's actually automatically doing for you here, which I love. The next thing is that example I gave you where Patricia is sitting with her seller. And the seller says, Patricia, what about my neighbor over here on Wessel Court? I don't see their comp in here. And Patricia says, well, then she's going to, try to find it on her phone. She's looking through. That's cumbersome. So what if I told you you could actually be sitting with your seller and immediately pull that property up? So here's how you do that. And I love this. I think this is something we've needed for a long time. That seller assumes that you've seen every property that's ever been listed in their neighborhood, right? You are the expert. You're going to tell them what their home is worth. And believe me, if there's a property that's active, pending, or recently closed, that seller's aware of it. So they want to know that we are as well. So how do you do that, especially if it's a big neighborhood? You can simply click on Map up here at the top. This is going to take you to the interactive map that is now going to pull in all the MLS information. So if, let's say, again, Joe Fumagalli says, well, what about that one over there on Bender? That's like my house. It has a finished basement. What did they get for it? I literally can click on that Bender property. And here's where I now can say, well, actually, I didn't choose this comp because as you can see, it's a kind of an odd shaped home. Another one that looks like there were some additional pieces added to it, but we can say, well, actually you are a brick ranch of 1,000 square feet. This has 2,000 square feet and is clearly not a single story home. So that really wouldn't be very much like your home when it comes to comparables. So, but this is a way you can see, and having that interactive way to do that on the fly, I think is something we've needed for a really long time. Again, if I want to look at a particular comp, I can simply click on it, pulls up over here. Now, let's use this example. Let's say, we're looking at this home. I can see this one's active. I do want to add this to my comps. We'll pretend this one's closed, but let's say we do want to add this particular one to my comps. Instead of going in and creating a whole new CMA or trying to do those adjustments, I can say, you know what? Let's include that one. That simple toggle, I've now added that right into my CMA. So now if I go back to my comparables, that property is added right here for me. So I can adjust things on the fly. I can see any differences, and all of that is right here. So it literally allows you to work and answer questions while you're there, which I think is very helpful. Again, not being in the bathroom trying to rip pages out because, oh, wait, they closed yesterday. I did my CMA 3 days ago to be prepared. This gives us a little more workable room in case something has changed. Or again, sometimes it's just to address why you didn't use that particular account. You can also go right to stats. This is going to give you that price per square foot breakdown. And of course, this is doing it on the closed numbers, also showing you our average is 33 days on market, the highest list price, the lowest list priced, and what our average and median are. So I think it's just a really easy, interactive way, especially if you know they're going to have a lot of questions about homes in their neighborhood. This is a great way to be able to do that. All right, so if you like what you saw, and you're like, now I'd like to know how to make one, show me the steps, that's where we're going to go next. So the big takeaway right now is, remember, it's just how you're going to create your CMA the same way. The big takeaway is, how are you going to present it? Now, before we go any further, I do want to point out that I'm going to show you the CMA portion of Cloud CMA today. This CMA program does so much more than just CMAs. So Cloud actually has a lead capture squeeze page that I use all the time, that is great for social media to not only put new information out there, but you can use this squeeze page to capture who's looking at it and pull the lead back. So it's a real tangible lead to work with. They also have property reports. They have buyer tours. They have property flyers. If you're doing a open house this weekend, you can put in an MLS number and it will design a great open house flyer for you with 2 clicks. I mean, so it has a lot more that you can do with this. If you aren't familiar with those pieces, there's a class called Cloud CMA Beyond the CMA. I think it's tomorrow, actually, and where we show you all those other pieces of Cloud. So don't be overwhelmed. One other thing I mentioned earlier on is I am recording this. So if you miss any part of today's class, let's say you get a call and you've got to answer a seller has a question, and you walk out of the room for a moment, don't worry, I am recording this. I'm going to show you where you can find this exact class at the end. I'll have it uploaded by tomorrow, so you can go right to the part that you missed. So I'm going to cover a lot of information, but don't feel overwhelmed. Remember, you can always go back to the class recording. Okay. All right. So let's talk about how we create this great Cloud CMA report. On average, as I mentioned, it's going to be a little longer today because I'm going to show you from A to Z, kind of a soup to nuts on how to do it. But remember, on average, it's going to take you about 7 to 9 minutes. The hardest part, quite honestly, is pulling the appropriate comps in the MLS. Once you do that, the other stuff is an easy button. You click, and it's going to throw it into your template for you. Let's start off with, how do you start preparing for your CMA? Because that's really the next big piece. So the first thing you want to do when I'm getting ready to go and list a property, I want to do my homework, as I mentioned. That's really what makes good agents, is people who put in the time and actually research the property to know all of the details, so there's no surprises. So let's say I got a call to go list 41539 Westfield Drive. This is a home that I closed about 2 years ago, but it has a lot of great examples. That's why I use it a lot. So I'm going to start going into Paragon, and I like to start off by just going to the power search. I like to see, has this property recently been listed? When did they buy the property? There's 15 years of history here. So in the average life of a seller, you're probably going to see that property has been listed. If it's never been listed, you're still going to do all of this. You're just going to have to do it through the tax records directly. Because I can see this property has been listed, if it was actively listed, it would shoot up at the top, or if it was pending. But I can see that this property has closed 3 times in the last 15 years. So I could jump to each particular listing. I don't really want to do that. I want to get the whole picture. So I'm just going to click on listings 3. That's going to open up all of those previously closed properties. So I can see now, mine may look a little bit different than yours. And I just want to point out that you can customize how these are displayed. And what I mean by that, when I'm showing properties, especially, I've been very blessed in 25 years, knock on wood. I got to work with so many great people, like Ed Martin and so many great agents. Very few bad experiences I've had. And then, of course, I've had one or two that, you've called 9 times. They won't even pick up the phone. You're trying to handle a home inspection that's gone upside down and you can't even get a return phone call and they just show up at closing, right? You have those experiences too. But thankfully for me, they've been few and far between. But when I'm getting ready to show 8 or 9 properties, I want to have the great agents like Ed Martin and other great agents that I've worked with really at the top of my showings. So I like to see right in my list who has that property listed. So you can customize these search results by simply going to customize and you can put in, I want to see the listing agent's name. So I can see very quickly, especially in the case of showings, who had that property listed. And sometimes, not that I would not show someone's listing, but I might show them further down the list and show the great agents that I know are great listing agents right up at the top. So keep in mind, if yours looks a little different in the way of customizing, that's why. When I'm ready to go in and review these, I can scroll down. I can obviously see all of the details. I can see who had it listed, how long it was listed for, when it closed, what they bought it for. But the reason I'm showing you this is I want to show you something that's unique to my real source. First and foremost, I like to save this as a PDF because I usually put these listing tickets in my Cloud CMA report. I do that because I want to show them, one, I did my homework. Two, I want to show them, okay, I see that you purchased this home. It was listed on 3/17. I see that you purchased it on blah, blah, blah date. You bought it for X amount of money. I like to show all of that right in. And by the way, every closed ticket will have if there's concessions. So the concession amount here, how it was purchased. As you can see, it was purchased conventional with $2,000 concessions here. It closed on 5/6. I like to have all that information right here. I didn't even know Ed Martin had that listed. That is a coincidence. Okay, so long story short, I like to save this and put it into my CMA, but I also want to do my homework. So I like to click this red button right here. That's that real list report I showed you early on. This is another piece of the puzzle. And the nice thing is it's all right on the listing ticket. You don't have to go find it, right? It's right there. I like to print this. You can print it or email it to yourself. I like to print this as a PDF and I like to pull this in to my Cloud CMA. So I just hit print, save it as a PDF, and then I pull that right into Cloud. So I have that record. When they say, where did you get our square footage from? How did you know how many bathrooms we had? Things like that. I can actually pull that open right away. So I just save it as a PDF. That's the easiest way for me. So close these, go back where we were here. And the nice thing is all of this is located again right on the listing ticket. But the difference is this last one. You definitely want to have the BSNA or the trusted municipality record in your report because that's the one that really matters. So what we do here at My Real Source, and I realize sometimes we do have other people coming in from other MLSs. So let me explain. This is for My Real Source members. I noticed on today's call, we did have a few coming in from our vendor MLSs around the state, which is wonderful. Welcome. But you need to check with your particular MLS. So if you're with Bay or if you're with eCar, they offer different counties and different areas. So what I'm going to show you right now is really kind of a guideline for My Real Source members. So where you see, and I apologize, it kind of looks like a garbage can. It's not a garbage can. It's supposed to be a government pillar. But when Brian, our chief technical officer, put it on the button, it kind of looks a little more like a garbage can. I think it's like all squished on there. That is where you go into the BSNA record. But the reason I'm showing you this is if you are a My Real Source member and you click that button, you not only get BSNA, many of the municipalities charge for the BSNA record. By the way, we just got word that they're now charging $6.35 starting in April for each property record. That's expensive. So if you are researching, let's say 10 property, you're going on 10 listing appointments a year, that's 10 times, it's $60. I know it's not huge, but obviously it all starts to add up. if you're a My Real Source member, we wanted to find a way to give back to our members. So we set it up so if you use this button in, if you use it in Genesee County, Macomb County, Sanilac County, St. Clair County, and any of the 5 gross points. If there is a charge, it sends us the bill on your behalf instead of you. But you have to go through this button in order to make that work because it has to know that you're coming in as a My Real Source member. So long story short, again, it's not a ton of money, but let's face it, every dollar helps. By clicking that button, it's going to open up that property record for me, but it's going to send My Real Source my $6.35 bill instead of me having to pay it. Now, of course, if it's a county that's not included, it'll ask you for your credit card and you'll have to pay for it. But I love the fact that it's a way for us to, we still get the same bill, we still get the same fee that you charge or that you would get charged, except that we pay it on your behalf. Another thing that I mentioned early on is you see this photo, this is a public records photo. This is the photo that I want to include on my cover. If you don't want to take someone else's photo in the MLS, as you know, there's a fine for stealing and cloning and using photos like that. But if I want to use this particular photo, I can simply right click on it, save the image. I am going to save this to my desktop under my class examples here. That way I can find it when I'm frantically looking. And I probably would crop this a little bit, which you can do in Cloud CMA, but this is where I'm getting, otherwise it gives you that Google overhead shot. Of course, if you have a photo that you've taken, if you're two-stepping your listings, you can use that as well. Just for me, I generally will one-step my listings. And so this is a great way to get that additional information. What I love here is there is a floor plan. There's also tax information. Recently just had the nicest lady, she reached out to me and she said, you know, I'm going to have to sell my condo. I'm really sad, but I can't afford the taxes any longer. And I knew she gave me the address. I did the CMA and I looked and there were like thousands and thousands of dollars of unpaid taxes. And it seemed extremely high for a small condo in Clinton Township. So then I realized, oh, the taxes were in homestead. Anyway, I met with this really, really nice lady. She explained her mother had passed away. She had never owned a home before. She moved into the condo, but the taxes were so high she couldn't afford to live there. And so I asked her, I said, well, if this is your first home, is this your only residence in Michigan? She said, yes. And I said, well, I see these are not homesteaded. Did you know that? Anyway, we called the city. They agreed to homestead the taxes and go back and prorate everything for her. We went down to the city, she paid them, and she became a client for life, all because I brought this to her attention. She had no idea. And she was a very young lady, and unfortunately her mom had passed, so no one had ever walked her through this, right? She became a client for life. She's bought multiple houses now, and it was all because I took the time to ask those questions and to figure it out with her. So putting in things like if there's outstanding tax bill, I put that in there. I put that in there because I want to have that in their net out anyway when I'm telling them what they're going to walk away with at the time. And a lot of municipalities now even include water. I listed a $40,000 home in Warren. There was a $3,000 outstanding water bill. And you can imagine when you're only talking $40,000, that's a big swing in your net out, right? Of what that seller is going to have in their pocket, especially since they had a mortgage. Having those things in their net out, having them in your CMA becomes really important so that we're accurately telling them what they're going to receive at the time of closing. Building department, if there's been permits pulled, maybe there were fires, maybe things had to be inspected, maybe they needed city search, all of that is in here too. So I print each one of these things and I make sure that that's in my CMA. All right. And again, if you have any questions, I know I'm covering a lot. If you have any questions, they'll throw them right in that questions box for me. All right. So where did I get all this information? Let's kind of just recap. I just went to the power search at the top of Paragon. This home happened to be listed in the last 15 years. So I'm able to pull it up and I got everything you're looking at right from these little colorful icons right on the listing ticket. So not hard. What about those stats though? Remember I told you you could create great stats with 2 clicks. What about those stats? How do you find those? How do you make that graph? Because again, we want to educate our seller on what's going on in the marketplace. That is going to be under your resources. Resources is basically like your agent toolbox. This is where you're going to find all of your tools. Cloud CMA is in here as well. So when you're ready to go back to your CMA, maybe you want to edit it, that's where you're going to find it, right under resources. While we're here, I also want to show you one other thing. Move this out of the way here. While we're here, as I mentioned, I am recording this class for you today. So this exact class, so if you miss something, you can fast forward right to that area, or if I went too fast on something, you need to see it again. We're recording these classes. You'll find it under the education department. All you have to do is go to recorded webinars. I just want to show this while we're here, right? Go to recorded webinars. This basically takes you to our YouTube channel. While you're here, we'd love it if you subscribe. But really what you want to do is you want to click on videos. And this is going to show you all of our class. Want to know more about public records, how to create great mailing labels and do marketing materials? Public records class is here. Transaction desk, creating a new listing from A to Z. All you have to do is find the class you're interested in. And I try to put the dates right after them so that you can see the exact class that you attended. So that's where you're going to find them. The other thing is we have classes on each one of these things that I'm showing you. As I mentioned, public records, we're kind of cramming into this class, but there's a whole class on public records. There's a whole class on creating your listing once you have the listing paperwork signed. How do you get it in the MLS fast and efficiently? Same thing. If you go to resources and you want to find any of those other classes, go under education, go to your education corner. And this is where you'll find our online digital catalog of all the courses that are available. So if you wanted to find out, remember I said there's a cloud CMA beyond CMAs? Well, that's actually going to be tomorrow at 1 o'clock. So if you want to learn even more about cloud, you can sign up by just clicking on the button. So again, think of resources as kind of your agent toolbox where you can find all of these great services. I just wanted to show you that while we were right here, so I didn't have to come back. But again, education is right what you're looking for. Okay, so market stats. How do we educate the seller on what's going on in their market, what they need to know? More inventory, less inventory, what are we looking at? That's where you're going to go to social media and lead gen, and it's just called market stats. But there's a trick to this, so let me show you. I know you're thinking, a trick, that's not good. No, the trick is fast stats is right up here at the top. To make this really easy and efficient, and 2 clicks, as I mentioned, you're going to click on fast stats. Sorry, everybody in our house is getting over this yucky bug right now. Fast stats, you're going to go to the county, and you're simply going to click on the city. So let's say I want to know what's going on in Sterling Heights. I'm going on a listing appointment in Sterling Heights, want to show the homeowner what's going on. All you're going to do is click on the county and the city. That's it. It creates that graph automatically for you. Let's take a look. So this is always going to be one rolling month behind because it's gathering the data for that current month, right? So in January, you're going to see December's because that's got all of the December data. So right now, I'm seeing that in Sterling Heights, they're down about 12% in their inventory. Last year in December, there were 123 homes on the market. This year, 108. What are we looking at in the way of sales increases? Again, still a deficit. So we're seeing not the $50,000 we saw last year, right? We're seeing a lot less. We're actually seeing 325 was our average last year, 335. So it's gone up about 10,000, a little less than 10,000 on average. So this is, again, a great graph to use. And I pull this in right to my CMAs so that they can accurately see exactly what's going on in their market. Okay. And you can just print it as a PDF. That's generally how I pull it in. All right. So we've done our homework, right? We've gathered the tax information. We've now gone in, we've gathered what's going on in the marketplace to educate our seller. How do we start putting together the comps, the magic numbers, right? And that is in the MLS. So let's go there. In order to do that, and by the way, my page may look a little bit different than yours. most of you, if you're coming in from a vendor MLS, you'll see your MLS information in the center. If you're coming in from another brokerage who has that brokerage control, you may see it kind of look like your office. Everything else is going to be very similar, but this center section may look a little bit different. So I don't want that to throw you. All right, so when we're doing our searches, we really want to do a detailed search. So where we're going to start is we're going to go up to search at the top. By the way, I'm ready for spring. So you can kind of see I've got that spring banner. There's all different banners that you can choose from. Some of them do some funny things, like the 80s theme has ET kind of fly out on your screen. So lots of cool stuff there. But I want to go in and I want to start my search. And obviously I want to search by the type of property. So we're looking for a single family residential home. So that's the type of search I'm going to do. Just like I showed you before, you can customize what fields are in your search. A lot of people don't know that you can also even customize where you want them. So if you're always scrolling to the bottom, did you know you can simply drag and drop where you want those fields in your search to be? So if I want area and county to be close together, I drag and drop those, hit apply, and what you're going to see is those fields are now right next to each other. So you can put them in the order you want. You can add fields that might be maybe different. As you can see, I've added zip code. I was recently teaching in Detroit, and they were saying, you know, Colleen, the way you're searching would never work here. Detroit is so big. We have to kind of break it into zip codes as well. So we added the zip code field for them, made it really easy. And that was exactly what they wanted. I've never searched that way, being out here in the country in Richmond where I live. But for them, that was really crucial. So don't be afraid to customize what fields are there or put them in what order. We also show you that in the Paragon Advanced class, how you can customize things like the agent name, how you can customize things like what might be niche for you, whatever your business might be different than the person sitting next to you. All right, so in this case, we're going to look for our closed comparables. So we're going to start with a single family home. We are going to say, I don't want rentals in there, just want to show them what's for sale. Now, status. So I'm a big, and probably most people on this call will not know who this is, but I'm a big Floyd Wickman fan. He was a great, funny real estate coach in the 90s, 80s and 90s. And he's still around today. He's just a really cool guy. And he always made it so fun to learn. He had a course called Sweat Hogs. And back then we took it in person. And if you didn't do your homework, you had to wear a dunce hat and people made fun of you. It was like a whole ordeal. You were so happy it was over when it was over, but you learned so much. But anyway, he always used to say, when you're going on a CMA appointment, of course, the closed records are the most important. That's what we're deriving, what it sold for, what type of financing, were there concessions, how long was it on the market, the price per square foot. That's all coming from the most important status, which is closed. That's the one we're deriving from. But if there's an active listing that they're competing with, I want them to see that too. And if there's something pending that we're waiting on, they know it's pending, trust me, and you want to have that in your report too. You want to have everything you need. So for me, I like to include closed, active, and pending. I also hate those MLS calendars where you got to click and then click 6 months, but I hate that. So just use these nice little drop downs here. In this market, an appraiser in this area is only going to go 6 months back. So I'm going to click 6 months back. I'm not going to put in any price because that's what I'm trying to determine, right? What is the price going to be that we're going to list this home for? I do like to generally include the structure style. Now, I'm giving you some general parameters, but keep in mind, if you're in the country and let's say that there isn't a house for 2 miles, you're obviously going to have to expand these parameters. If you have a house that's very unique, maybe a waterfront house, yes, sometimes you have to expand these parameters. I'm giving you like the 101 version, right? The standard. So in this case, in this area, yes, I want to compare a 1-story brick ranch to a 1-story brick ranch. How many bedrooms? I happen to know that this home has 3 bedrooms. And I happen to know that it has 1 full bath and 1 half bath. In this case, I'm going to leave bathrooms total off because that can fluctuate a little bit. And I'm going to show you why, just because there's no inventory. I want to make sure we get a few. Yes, this home has a basement. Yes, it has a garage. But what if I only wanted to include attached garages? Well, that we could do under features. So remember, if I'm saying I only want to see comps with attached garages, I could find that in features. Again, due to the low inventory, I'm not going to put anything in features. I'm just going to get as many homes as we can, and then I'll take a look. Do we have enough? If we have too many, that would be something I would add in. Of course, school district is going to be important in most areas. So there are parameters that you're going to use. For today's example, I'm going to keep it kind of generic just so I can show you a few examples. Number of car garage. But what about square footage? This is usually where I get a lot of questions. Well, Colleen, how do you decide what is the square footage range? Do you compare 1,000 square foot to 5,000 square? What's the cutoff, right? Well, the cutoff is appraisers use the 20% rule. At least every appraiser I've ever talked to, I probably have a good 20 appraiser friends. Again, the only caveat is if you're listing some very unique property, maybe waterfront, or you're doing this in a very remote country area, sometimes this can change, but most appraisers are going to use that 20% rule. So how are we figuring that out? Well, in our BS&A record, we can see very clearly this home is 1,361 square feet. Okay. So when we are doing our comparables, we're going to figure out what 20% of that is. So I'm going to go back to, so we're going to do 1361 times our 20%. So that comes out to be about 270. So when I'm doing my square foot comparison, I'm going to take that 272 and I'm going to minus it from that 1361, right? So we're looking, I'm just going to round for the sake of time here, 1100. Then we're going to take that 1361 and add the 272 on top. So we're going to say 1550 just to make it nice and easy. That's going to be our 20% square footage rule. No, we're not going to compare a 3,000 square foot colonial to our 1,300 square foot brick ranch. And so that's how we're figuring that out. Now, I'm going to show you a little secret that most people don't know is here. And quite honestly, it frustrates me. It's here. It shouldn't be here anyway, but I digress. If I go down, do you see where it says secondary criteria here? Did you know if you click that drop down, that underneath there is a whole nother set of criteria? By the way, it doesn't have to stay down there. You can actually take anything that's down here and move it up into your primary criteria. So you don't have to scroll down and do that. For the longest time, I never even knew this was here. But things like if I want to see, let me show you a pet peeve I have. That's what they love about me at the MLS. I'll tell you what I like and what I don't like as an agent. If I'm looking at the criteria up here, you see where it says bathrooms total? It's basically counting all of the toilets in the entire house. But you want to be more specific? Scroll on down. You can actually search by bathrooms full, bathrooms half. You can search by acreage. You can, and if you don't like them in my real life searches, by the way, these are all up in the primary. I don't have anything important down here. I have the stuff I never need to see, like listing visibility, stuff like that. That's down there, and that's only down there. So don't be afraid if there's a particular way that you want to customize your search. Put it up in your primary. You can do that right under customize, really easy. As I mentioned, you can even drag and drop them into the order you want. Again, this is all in the Paragon Advanced class, but it's a pet peeve of mine and most people don't even know is down there. So I just thought I would show you. Okay. So we've got our criteria in, and you're probably thinking, well, lady with the fuzzy hair, you have 5,400 comps. Well, remember, we didn't put in the most important piece, right? Location, location, location. So how do you choose, like an appraiser is going to choose? How do you choose the right comps in the right area? Really, the best way to do that, I don't want a whole city's worth of comps. I want a mile from where they're living, right? So to do that, we're going to go into search by map. Once you click into search by map, by the way, it's going to open to your office location unless you reset that in settings. You can go into your preferences and change that. But I want to actually center my map on exactly where that subject property is. So I'm going to go to this little field up here, and I'm going to type in 41539 Wessel, which is our subject property, comma, Sterling Heights. Now, there's a trick to this. So please remember, this is kind of important. This happens to be Wessel Drive. But leave off the drives, the ways, the places. It uses Google Maps to find this. So you don't want to put in extra stuff, because if you're putting in drive and it has DR period, you might not find it. So just put in the route street address. Think of it, Google, less is best, right? You're getting more results. 41539 Wessel, leave off the drives, the ways, the courts, the boulevards, comma, the city. You want to do comma the city because it's going to relocate your map to exactly where you were looking. Now, I'm going to zoom out just a little so you can see how this works. I want to do what an appraiser is going to do. I want to stay within 1 mile for my comps. So I'm going to go to 1, search radius, and it's going to draw it just like an appraiser would see it. Now, if you're looking at these circles, the clusters, it's just because the flags are close together. If you zoom in, it will break them apart. If I want to see what comps I've selected, I can just simply click on it and I can scroll through. Here's another really cool thing to do. And especially if you have your buyer set up in the new collaboration center. Let's say you kind of wanted to check out the neighborhood, and we're going to use Patricia again because she was so kind. If I want to check out the neighborhood, I can, it looks like I missed a question. Fair to say that when you add features, you could inadvertently, great question from, actually a statement and kind of a question from Charlene. Thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't see it pop in. Is it fair to say that when you add features, you could inadvertently leave out homes if the buyer agent didn't fill in features? That is a great, and I'm sorry I didn't bring it up, Charlene, so thank you for bringing it up. Yes, I don't generally, when I am doing a CMA, I do not like to add features in my CMA, like fireplace, like attached garage, because guess what? It's kind of garbage in, garbage out. What happens is right now agents are selling homes so quickly, they're just putting in what's required. So they're not putting in fireplace or attached garage. I think they do have to, I think that's a required feature, but they're not putting in the extras. So I generally will leave out the features on most of my CMAs. If there's something specific, then it's okay to add a feature if you really have to, but I generally don't. And the reason is I want to see all of the comps. I don't want to take a chance that I've missed a good comp because maybe a lazy agent didn't check off, yes, it had a fireplace, or yes, it had an attached garage. I want to see everything and make my own determination. And there's not that many comps to choose from right now. So Charlene brings up a great point. You don't want to put in so much, and especially when it comes to features. By adding in those extra features, you may actually eliminate a comp you wanted to use. So Charlene, that's a great point, and thank you for putting that in there. I worry about when I'm looking for, say, a bath and a bedroom, unless it takes me to put that in. Bath and bedroom are a little bit different because those are required. So I do put in bed and bath. I usually don't put in a maximum, to be totally honest. I put in a minimum because I don't want to shortchange my seller on what, if they have at least if they have a 3-bedroom home, I want at least a 3-bedroom price, at least in this market. So I do put in bed and baths. And it also is required that you now put in the level. So I know that those are above grade square footage. I don't like to do total so much because a basement bath is not above grade. It's not going to be as valuable as having it above grade or in the above square footage. So for me, yes, you're right. I definitely don't put in features unless there's something very, very unique. I've done that in a handful of cases, but not very often. I do, though, take the time to put in the bedroom and bathroom because now it is required. It shows on every listing where that bed and bath is, meaning that it shows whether it's on the first level, whether it's on the basement. So I do search on above grade square footage, which is what the bedroom and bathroom is right there. And so I do include bedrooms and bathrooms because that does make a difference. In my neighborhood, I have a lot of 2-bedroom homes. Those do not sell like the 3 and 4 bedrooms. So that does make a difference in my pricing to me. But criteria, definitely, that is when you're getting into features, I don't include those. So really great points. Thanks. All right, so let's go back to our radius search. We've now got a couple other things we want to take a look at. So we're starting to pull in our comps, but let's pretend, Charlene, since you've been so kind and asking good questions, let's pretend Charlene is listing Grandma's Cottage. Remember, you can now see 97% of the state's listings in Paragon. So let's pretend Charlene's going up here. She's listing Grandma's Cottage over here. And she doesn't want to drive all the way up there and then come all the way back down to her CMA and go all the way back up there again. She kind of wants to see, what does the neighborhood look like? Are these smaller lots, larger lots? Did you know that you can actually grab this little yellow Google man over here to the right, and you can actually put it right in front of your subject property? Now, I love this because I can see the property to the left. I can walk down the street, but I also know by looking at it, this is our subject property. It's pinned right here, right? So we know which is our listing appointment for the evening. We can also see, is the property appreciating? Is the property, are we looking at smaller homes? I can see that clearly this happens to be an Edison easement. I happen to know that because I grew up in this area. But I can see that these homes are backing up to that Edison easement. Your clients, your buyer side clients, can do this in the Collaboration Center too. I love the new Collaboration Center. It came out last month. It has some awesome new features. If you haven't checked that out, it's kind of cool. But this allows you to literally, if you're listing a home that's hours and hours away, you and your clients can actually walk down the street literally on your computer to check out the entire neighborhood. So I just thought that was very cool. All right, so let's go back to our map here. A couple other things I wanted to show you. When you are looking in that radius, let's use Charlene again for our example. Let's pretend that Charlene is having a super awesome month. She just listed we're going to pretend this is Lake St. Clair. She just listed 3 beautiful waterfront properties. They're $1 million waterfront properties. And although we're very excited about that for Charlene, that would really screw up our little brick ranch way off the water over here, right? Because it's clearly not on the water like these $1 million homes that she's listed this month. So what I want to do in that case is I may want to exclude anything that falls on the waterfront. But how do you do that in your radius? Well, what I would do in that case is I would go to Draw up here, and I would select my polygon shape. So let's pretend that we are going to exclude any of the fancy waterfront listings that we don't want to mess up our CMA numbers. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Well, Colleen, you just drew a shape on a shape. What does that do? Well, there's one more step. We're going to also go up to Edit, and we're going to select Exclude. So now anything, although we're excited for Charlene here because she's got those $1 million waterfront listings, I don't want them included to screw up my CMA numbers. Where this is helpful is, of course, waterfront. If you have, I recently listed a home in a sub, and half of the sub was new construction, right? These big, beautiful homes. The other half of the sub, same builder, were 1930 style brick ranch homes that were smaller, kind of a more of a choppy, obviously apples and oranges. Now, yes, of course, I could separate that by year built. You could do that. But for me, I knew exactly where that divider line was in the subdivision, and I simply excluded that small area of the sub because I didn't want those 1930 style homes to be coming into my CMA. So you can even kind of do that in the mapping. So now I've said, yeah, we'll go back. I'm going to go ahead and edit that, just pull that out. So if you have an area that you don't want to include, maybe it's close to the railroad tracks, maybe it's just not like the area that you're pulling in comps for, you can always exclude a particular area too. Okay. All right. So we've got our area. We've got some comps selected. Where is the magic button? How do I get them into cloud? What we just did truly is the hardest part of your CMA. it's finding the comps in Paragon. Now, if I was doing this in real life, and for the sake of time, obviously, I'm not going to go too much deeper in here. I want to show you the cloud side. I would put in school district. I would put in square footage, bedrooms, bathrooms, drawing my area, all things that are going to be pertinent to the comps that you pull. I'm shooting for 3 to 5 comps. That's generally what you want. Sometimes you don't have that in this market because inventory is so tight. And sometimes you have too much. If you have way too many comps, you need to put in a little more criteria that's going to obviously dwindle it down to your subject properties. It's going to be more like your subject property. But for the sake of time today, I'm going to go into my results. I can see I have 20, but remember, I've included active and pendings here too. So I want to sort them. With my OCD, I kind of like to always have things sorted. I'm going to go in, I'm going to click on status, and I'm going to see, yep, I've got 2 active here. Definitely want to include those because that homeowner is going to know what's active. I've got 2 pending, so I'm going to include those. Now, in real life, I would have put in a little bit more criteria. Probably year built would have been one of them because I could see we've got a couple from 1984 versus the 1962, which I think is when this home was built. So I would have also included in this case, because I had more comps, things like attached garage. So remember how I said in features, you generally don't use those because you don't want to eliminate good comps. But if I have an overage of comps, that might be how I drill them down to be more like my subject property. For the sake of time, I'm just going to grab a couple clothes that I think would be pretty relevant. Now, with my OCD, I hate this. I hate that I've selected just a few, but I'm still seeing all the garbage ones. So for me, I like to go up and use the checked. Now I'm only working with the comps I actually want to be using. So I've got 9, I've got 5 of my closed, 2 actives, and 2 pending. What do I do with them? How do I get them into cloud? That's the magic sauce, right? I want to take all of these properties and I want to now move them into the cloud CMA program. The magic button, if you will, is right here. It's this little plugin. All I want to do here is I want to click actions. If I wanted to show all of those homes, I could throw them in a showing time cart from here. I could create a buyer tour for my buyers tonight if we're seeing these properties. But in this case, we're making a CMA. So we're just going to click Cloud CMA. The magic is done. You've pulled all of those MLS numbers, as you can see right down here, without having to manually type anything in. You've pulled in all of those MLS numbers. Now I want to go in. I want to create a name for my CMA. So we're going to call this Sally Ann Seller. So it's kind of the magic button I mentioned, if you will. Over here, I don't want to have to enter a bunch of information about a subject property. I can pull that from the tax records. So we're going to start typing in 41539 Wessel. It's going to quick fill that information for me. Remember how I said I like to add a cover? So it is pulling in the BAS. If I need to change this, if I want to put in square footage or more information, I can do that. But I want to go grab that cover shot that we started off. Remember when we were looking at tax records, I said, let's use this public records photo. I'm going to click on add cover. And I'm just going to find on my desktop where we had that photo. So I think it was this one right here. So I want to go ahead and I want to crop that now. I don't want that kind of that sidewalk view. Sometimes they have the date and things on them. I don't like that either. So I'm going to now crop it and I'm going to use that as my front cover photo. Next, I'm literally going to walk through the 4 tabs that Cloud CMA has. I'm going to click this Fetch Listing button, and I'm going to pull all of that data. It's literally 4 tabs that we're filling out, and one you're really not even filling out. It's kind of like a save button. So let me kind of explain. So as we're pulling in the data from Paragon, we're pulling in those listing numbers. The hardest part for us now is that we just want to go in and we want to make sure the comps that we selected are exactly what we meant to. We want to obviously have our custom colors there. We simply want to go in and basically create our template. Now, the nice thing about your template is you're only doing this one time. So you don't have to go, oh my gosh, I have to go in and create a template each time. You just do it one time. That's kind of the point of a template, right? You want to go in one time. You want to have all of that information saved there. And I'm going to literally walk through those tabs. So the first one that you're looking at is what comps did we select? So in our tabs, the first one is the listings. So this is showing me what comps I brought over. If there is a comp I don't want to use, let's say I didn't realize, oh, I didn't mean to grab this 320, I could deselect a particular comp. Maybe I don't want to use those particular ones. I don't have to start all over. But what I like here, and this is something they just added, is if there is a note or an adjustment that I want to put in on a comp, I can add that here. So maybe I want to point out that home does not have an attached garage like yours does. I can add that into the notes right here. I can also do a positive or negative adjustment for that. Now, I wish I was like that Joanna Gaines, who can walk in a home and like say, okay, we're gonna knock this home, we're gonna knock this wall out, we're gonna make this kitchen bigger, it's gonna bring us $15,000 more. I am not. However, there is a great tool that's not offered through the MLS, but it is offered as part of your realtor package. It's called RPR, which is Realtor Property Resource. Did you know in RPR, there's an actual place that you can go and you can type in the address and it will give you a positive or negative adjustment for home improvements. I had no idea. I love that thing. Because you basically say, okay, they put in an updated kitchen. It uses the parcel ID, so it's doing it for the property. Because let's face it, an updated kitchen in my home here in Michigan is a lot different than an updated kitchen in California. There's going to be a huge difference in price value, but it asks the agent a series of questions and it actually comes up with a positive or negative adjustment number that you can use things for, like no garage, like attached garage, like a kitchen remodel. So if you're interested, you can put in the questions box, yeah, could you show us that? And I can cover it at the end if we have time. But I like it a lot. It's not a tool we offer at the MLS, but it is something you get for free right through NAR. There's even under resources, there's a link to take you right to your RPR account. I love that thing because it's very good at giving you at least a starting place. If you have a subject property that doesn't have something that all your comps do, sometimes you need to figure out what that negative adjustment or that positive adjustment would be. So again, if you're interested in seeing that, just throw it in the questions box. I can address it at the end. Okay, so this first one, if you do nothing at all, if you've selected all the appropriate comps, you're just going to leave them selected. But this is where you can put in your price range that you want to give them. There's kind of a mini CMA right over here, so I can kind of see what the numbers break down to be. But now, really, most of the time, I don't do anything on that screen at all. I'm going to go ahead and just click Customize My Report. This is what do I want to bring in. Those tax pages, those custom pages for the market stats, things like that. Those are things I want to have specific for this individual, not part of my template, because that's always going to be different. It's going to be part of this particular CMA. The template you want to remember is something generic for all of them that you do. So my company information, my marketing plan, things like that, maybe my agent resume. It's always generic. That's stuff you want in your template. But the other stuff is stuff that's going to be specific just to this CMA. So I don't want to have it in there every time and I got to go take it out every time, right? Hopefully that makes sense. But if you want to know what is in your CMA report, and by the way, out of the gate, they give you everything. You don't want to have a 75-page CMA, right? You want to have it short and sweet. I kind of just like it to be exactly the meat and potatoes. Here's who I am. Here's how I'm going to market your property. Here's the 5 comps we selected. Let's sell it for this. That's kind of me, a little bit more condensed. But some people like to have their full-on pages. I call them pages of greatness. You can have testimonial letters in here. You can add in all of that stuff if you would like to. I just don't like mine to be too long. So if you want to know what's in your CMA report, basically everything that's showing up in this white section, that's what's going to be included. If I want to see what's on a particular page, I can simply click on the title page and it's going to show me exactly what that looks like. Remember, we just kind of cropped that photo down. It's going to show me exactly what that particular page looks like. My contact me, maybe I want to update that. Maybe I want to add a little more information or that QR code. But you can see what's in each one. Something in here you don't want in your report, simply going to minus it out. So I want to have the stats, but maybe I want to add different stats. Maybe I want to add something different. If there's something that's not in your report that you want, that's going to be over here to the left. Maybe I want to include what is a CMA so they can be a little more familiar. I can go ahead and float that in. You can also drag and drop these in whatever order you want them to be. So again, if you don't want something, you're going to minus it. You want to add something, just hit that plus and it will float in. And of course, you can maneuver it wherever you would like in your report. The comparables. So for me, I really like to have all of the photos, but if you're going to print it, you might not want all of the photos. Maybe you want to minus those out because you don't want to be printing pages and pages. You can have up to 99 photos. It gives you the option. Would you like to just add the first one? Would you like to add the first dozen, or would you like to have all of them? So you can choose exactly what you want, especially if you're going to print it. There are some marketing pieces that they've pre-written for you. Again, there's a couple of them I like, but I'm not going to use that one. Our suggested list price. If you don't want to give a suggested list price like I've done here in my price range, you can simply minus that out. Maybe I don't want them to see that. Maybe I'm going to come up with that price with them. There is a seller's net sheet. Another reason, again, I'm going to tell you the good and the bad, right? I don't like the Cloud CMA net sheet. I like my own from Transaction Desk because it does all the math for me. I think it's more detailed. So I bring the one in. I think that's the one I selected here. This is theirs, but I like to bring in mine directly from Transaction Desk. So let me show you what I mean. I save it as a PDF, just like, if I can find it quickly. And you can do this from zip form as well if you're using zip form. I like the one because again, it's going to have all the items. It does all the math for me. It's just way, way easier. I'll see if I can find it quickly. As you can see, I teach this class a lot and have a lot of those in here. But the seller's net, I think, is way more, it's just kind of more work, in my opinion, to do it in Cloud CMA. So just personal preference. Again, for me, I like to just have it in. So I could find it quickly, but I don't see it. Got to clean some of these out to make it a little bit easier here. Tax special assessments. I'll put that one in there so you can kind of see that as well. The tax information. Thought I labeled it sellers net, but yeah, I'll have to find it. But anyway, I just pull that one in because it makes it a little bit easier. Another thing that I have done, I mentioned that I made a sites page to show them. If you want that, I can strip my information off. Just make sure your broker syndicates to those. You're more than welcome to reach out for that page. Another situation I had was a seller had purchased a couple of homes, and he was actually out of he was an out of the country seller. And he reached out to me and said, hey, I want to list these homes. But when I got to the homes, a lot of them were in really bad shape. They had been rented out. This happened to be one of them. One of the things I included, because I didn't want to tell them, well, I know you thought this was a great investment, but really when I got in there, your renters have destroyed it. I'd rather show them. Instead of me giving an opinion, I was kind of always taught by Floyd Wickman, it's better to show them everything. So what I did is in their CMA, I just went and took photos. The first thing is this home happened to be in Warren, and it had no CFO. It was tagged for non-occupancy, meaning that we had to deal with that problem first. They had left a tremendous amount of stuff. They had pulled, I don't know if you can kind of see it here, they'd pulled a lot of cabinets off the wall. When I came in, the laundry room literally had water running over the floor, so it was all buckled up. There was a lot of things that I needed to point out we were going to have to fix before putting it on the market. So I just went and took photos. Unfortunately, they had left some pets behind, and it was not good. So I took photos of everything and I put them in the CMA. So instead of me giving an opinion, I was literally able to show him, here's the condition. And I just labeled it condition of the property. And that way he could see it for himself. But this is, of course, where you'd bring in your tax records. Now you're probably wondering, how did I get the tax record in here? So there's two steps. I'm going to show you one step while we're here, and then I'm going to go back and complete the second step. Everything you bring in that's a custom page, meaning tax records, BS&A records, market stats, those types of things. Everything that you're doing uniquely for each CMA is going to be under these custom pages. I'm going to show you how to get it there, but once you have it there, if you want to add it in, you simply click in and it's going to add that. Again, you can drag and drop that to where you want it. But they're all going to be listed under your custom pages section. I'm going to show you how to get them there in just a second. But basically, that's it. We've now brought in the pages we want to be part of our report. Here, you can choose different themes. Certainly, if you are with, let's say, Century 21, you don't want to go with the Remax balloon. So you do want to make sure that up here, you've got your custom themes. If you are with a Remax or a Real Estate One, they paid a lot of money to have some great marketing pieces in there for you. So you can select those depending on your franchise. I with Keller Williams, so I actually use the Keller Williams theme. That color, if you will. It's not the Keller Williams themes, it's just the colors for that particular one. There are all different themes that you can choose from. There's every color scheme you can think of. I like the photo layout. Now, this is just for your comps. The one I like is the photo with max data. If you're going to print it, you may want to consider one of these where it's stacking the properties up. I particularly like this one because it gives more data and all of the photos. So if they ask me, does he have a finished basement? We can look at that. You can also save your template. So I can call it whatever I want. Maybe I want to call this Charlene's awesome listing template. I can actually save this as a template, or I can choose from one of the ones that they have already set up for you. So again, you can save your template. That's really what makes it easy and convenient. The other thing is what kind of covers you can do the upsell. I'm going to be honest. I bought the upsell once. I didn't really think it was worth all that. I could kind of do that myself. So, but they do have some Tom Ferry covers and different things that you can upsell if you wanted to. One word of caution, I would not change the font. I get a lot of complaints about people who change the font, and because some of them do scripty font, doesn't look as nice in the when you stack things up next to each other. Plus, we give you an expanded amount of public remarks that you can bring over. I thought it kind of truncated it in some cases, and I didn't really like that. So my personal preference is I do not change the font. I like the default font so everything lines up properly and doesn't get truncated. That's just my personal preference. All right, the last one is just publishing your report. That's really saving it. Keep in mind, if you ever make a change to your CMA, you do have to republish it for that change to stick. So you do want to make sure that if you're making a change to your CMA, you hit that publish one more time. Okay, so right now in the next 30 seconds, it's going to finish publishing our Mr. Happy Seller report here, or Sally Seller, whatever you want to call it. The idea here is now I can do the PDF like I showed you in the beginning. So hopefully it makes sense why I started off backwards, right? That PDF version, or whether you decide to use that live version. Let's go in and take a look. Here's our beautiful CMA. And again, you can copy it down. I just kind of left everything in there. You can do a cover letter to your clients. You can do a marketing plan. Here's my information about the company. Here's the page we added. What is the CMA? But of course, you can make this as lengthy as you wanted, or you can shorten it. There's even some things you can do in our advanced class. We show you how to tie in. If you have Zillow ratings, you can pull in your Zillow ratings. If you're on, I think it's Rate My Agent, you can pull in from there. There's a bunch of different sources you can actually pull testimonials and quotes from. But again, kind of want to look those over and make sure you're staying on top of all of those too. So we've kind of gone through the PDF. I'm not going to go through that anymore. I just want to show you one last piece of the puzzle. So I mentioned that in your CMA, because now it's here, again, we can do the live version or the PDF. But I also mentioned you want to bring in those outside pieces, your marketing plan, anything like that. So as we wrap up, where do you pull those in? I showed you how to go into the CMA and add them in, but how do you get them from the outside world, right? The tax information, how do you get it into cloud to use? One last step I want to show you. Right under your avatar at the top in Cloud CMA, you will see custom pages. This is also has a great lead generation tool. We're going to be showing that tomorrow. If you're available, take that class. There's also a bunch of different things you can do in Cloud CMA. But one we want to look at is the custom pages. This is where you can go in and you can create custom pages, or you can just pull them in like the tax records. So how does it work? Well, they give you a bunch of templates right here. So if I wanted to use, let's say, their marketing plan, I could click on the pencil icon. They give you some examples, but of course you could tweak that, put your own in. You can put in video links, you can put in links, you can put in movies. So you can actually tweak that. But for me, if I want to pull in those outside pages, like those photos that I showed you, the MLS listing ticket, our market stats, as I mentioned, one I wanted to show you was I had to pull in someone's C of O for center lines. I wanted to have that in there. These are all great examples of tools that you can use basically or pull in so that they can see it. I wanted to show you the net out real quick while we're here too. As you can see, I really do need to clean this up. Here's that net out. So I like, as I mentioned, to include the net out in transaction desk or zip form because it auto calculates this. I like the way it looks a lot better. And so for me, that's one I do pull in. But to pull them in, it's super easy. I'm just going to go to the bottom. You won't have all these. I'm going to clean these up, I promise. You're going to click upload for PDF. We're just going to find on our computer where we saved those. So I saved our class example. Let's see, I did. What else did I put? Let's do class examples. If this is my tax record, let's say, I think it's this one. I'm simply going to click on it. I'm then going to pull that in. Now it's under those custom pages. So I pulled in our BS&A report. Remember, I saved it as a PDF on my computer. Now, when I go into my CMA, I can quickly add those tax documents in. So I'm going to go to my CMA that we created today. I'm going to click on Edit. And I'm going to go to that customized page because I want to add that custom page in. So I go to my custom pages. It always drops it at the bottom for you. So now I'm going to add in my class example. And just like that, we've added in our tax record for that property. All right. So I know I covered a whole lot. Remember, this is why we recorded it. You can find that recording under resources. And this is also where you're going to find Cloud CMA. So if you want to go into your CMA, start working on, remember, you kind of want to start them in Paragon if you're pulling over the properties. But if you want to go in and access them or edit them, you're going to go right to resources. And that's also where you'll find today's class recording. So I appreciate your time. I know we ran about 4 minutes over. Let me just check the questions real quick just to make sure that I got them all. Let's see, grab the question, see if I missed anything. Hopefully you picked up a couple time-saving tips. And yeah, I think I'm going to pass that one. But yes, hopefully you picked up a couple time-saving tips and techniques that make doing a CMA a little bit easier. I want to thank you for your time and go list some properties. We certainly need the inventory. Thanks for your time, everybody. Have a great day.